The P220 Legion 10mm is a barrel-chested Delta operator with a dad bod that walks into a mission briefing, it immediately puts his feet on the table. The 220 is an old man in a locker room covered in silver hair with the strength of a gorilla who refuses to wear a towel in the sauna. He doesn't care that it makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem. Because the P220 10mm is a cannon from a different time, modernized just enough to keep up with the young bucks. A 1971 Plymouth Cuda with the engine of a new Corvette. It's a heavy beast that doesn't care if you're good enough to wield it correctly. It doesn't have a huge magazine, and it scoffs at polymer like a side salad with a 32-ounce steak. The 10mm Legion remembers a time when shooters had to choose between capacity and power, and it breathlessly grunted, "Power!" 10mm too much gun for you? Eat more red meat. 44.5 ounces unloaded too heavy for you? Hit the gym. 8-round magazines not enough for you? Shoot better. When the steel frame of the 220 Legion fills your hand, it transports you back to a time when mustaches were the paragons of masculinity, when seatbelts were for wimps and understeer was a feature on muscle cars. But the 10mm Legion isn't just a nostalgia trip / horse steroids made physical, it has the performance to back up the gusto. Utilizing its 5-inch barrel, the 220 squeezes a ton of performance out of the already beefy 10mm auto round, making it appropriate not just for home defense, but for slaying hogs and bear with proper shot placement. The new optics-ready P220 Legion is the latest iteration of the handgun that started life as a very large 9mm handgun way back in 1975. In its inception, the 220 was a direct replacement for the prohibitively expensive P210 series of handguns, renowned for their accuracy and precision machining. But if you're arming thousands of soldiers and not just a handful of bullseye shooters, some corners just have to be cut. The biggest difference is how the 220 pistols no longer needed the slide to be hand-fitted to the barrel and frame. This act alone dramatically decreased production costs for an imperceivable, at least for most shooters, difference in accuracy. The gun was an instant hit overseas, where its reputation for bomb-proof construction, accuracy, and unstoppable reliability put it in a league of its own. But the 220's popularity stateside didn't really take off until SIG offered the gun in .45 ACP, where it immediately drew comparisons to America's favorite .45 workhorse, the 1911. And once Americans got a taste of that sweet, sweet SIG quality, they were hooked. The design later morphed into the higher capacity P226 and 229 handguns, but many shooters held a special place in their collective hearts for the full-sized, single-stack beast. And given the overbuilt nature of the gun, it only made sense that SIG would pair it with a more powerful round. And that's exactly what they did back in 2015 with the introduction of the 10mm version. The latest version, wearing the Legion label from SIG, now comes optic ready from the factory in 2 major configurations: a double action single action version and a single action only one. As a lifelong fan of the 1911, I naturally chose the latter. And my god, what a gun it is. The 220 Legion features ergonomics nearly on par with the 1911. Truth be told, I prefer the slimmer profile of that gun, with an excellent trigger, all steel construction, and a 5-inch barrel. This gun might not have been originally designed for 10mm, but it was certainly destined for it. The way the 220 Legion's heft soaks up recoil makes you feel like a roided out Arnie from Commando. Follow-up shots are laughably easy, even one-handed, with more potent defensive rounds like those from Hornady and Winchester. In fact, prior to filming the review for this gun, I had taken the 220 Legion out to my backyard range and blasted through a few boxes at a time to get a better feel for it, and had so much fun doing so, I ended up having to buy almost half a case more to actually shoot the video. And what really struck me during filming is how I blasted through 350 rounds of full-powered ammo, and I never felt fatigued in my hands or arms. The 220 Legion is the M1 Garand of handguns, managing to strike the perfect balance of heft and recoil so that a shooter knows they're firing a serious weapon, but not so blasty and recoil intensive to leave you exhausted or sore after a few mags. But this makes sense. The gun weighs a whopping 44.5 ounces, nearly 3 pounds. The P220 Legion 10mm. If I have to choose between doing curls at the gym and practicing at the range, I don't. The P220 10mm is unapologetically powerful, heavy, and just freaking brawny. But that doesn't mean it wants you to be stuck in the past. No, the engineers at SIG modified the design to accept both a tactical light and an optic. One thing to note, the footprint on the Legion is for a shield sight, but it actually needs an adapter to run those, because from the ground up, it's made for SIG's beefiest micro red dot, the Romeo 2. And that's precisely what I recommend that shooters run. Because I had originally installed a no-name Chinese optic on this handgun to test accuracy, and the 220 Legion 10mm recoil destroyed that red dot in 3 mags. So don't skimp. Buy something designed for 10mm if you're going to run a red dot on this gun. Speaking of which, with the Romeo 2 installed, I was punching ragged holes in paper at 25 yards and effortlessly ringing steel at 100. If you can't hit your target with the new 220, you're either a terrible shot or you've managed to fire the wrong caliber ammo through the gun. And in terms of reliability, after a total sum of 600 rounds of ammo from Winchester, Hornady, Federal, and Privy Partisan, I never encountered a single malfunction whatsoever. But I will say this, one older loading from PPU that I found at a local gun shop didn't want to load past 3 rounds in the magazine. It's not that it wouldn't function with the ammo, it's that the rounds were physically dragging inside the mag body. And when I placed the rounds next to the ammo that did work, it was plain to see they were slightly longer overall than the good ones. And interestingly enough, these rounds fed and fired fine in a Glock 20 that I tested a few weeks ago, but were noticeably harder to load into the magazine. So I suspect the issue lies with the rounds and not the gun. Just the same, if you're going to buy ammo for this gun in bulk, buy a single box of ammo if it's not made by Winchester, Federal, or Hornady before committing to a full case just to be safe. Alright, now that I've ranted on and grunted about the gun for 15 minutes, what's my verdict? Well, you guessed it, I frickin' love it. I love the P220 Legion 10mm like I love classic cars, like I love big bore revolvers, like I love driving a stick shift. It's a gun that embraces the experience of shooting rather than trying to make it into something for the everyman to enjoy. Sure, anyone can handle the 220 Legion in 10mm, but most will buy something cheaper and higher capacity. But they're missing out on a tac-driving, hard-hitting, outlast-your-grandkids hand cannon. Thanks, guys. For MLN TV, I'm Jim Grant. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the flip side.